How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Kuf Zayin, Daf 107 of Masechta Sanhedrin. Friends, where are we? Okay. Oh no, is that thing happening? Dag nabbit. Alright. I think I might have to record Babylon Talmud today without being able to see. Alright, we'll see how we can do. Literally just started happening as I'm starting to record. Oh wow, this is going to be interesting. Alright, here we go. Okay, Amr V'Yudah Marav. It says of V'Yudah Marav, L'olam Yovi Adam Atzma Lidei Nisayon. Okay, a person should not bring himself to be tested. Sharei David Melech Yisrael Evi Atzma Lidei Nisayon V'Nichshol. Because David, king of Israel, he brought himself to be tested by God, and he failed. Amr L'fanav Ribono Shel Olam. He says, Master of the world, Eloke Avram, Eloke Yitzchak, Eloke Yankif, Ve'ein Omim, Eloke David. David HaMelech asked the Ribono Shel Olam, he says, how can we say Eloke Avram, Eloke Yitzchak, and Eloke Yaakov? What about David? Omar, Inu minsu li, ve'at lo minsis li. So the Ribono Shel Olam responds, well, they passed tests. You never passed any tests. So David HaMelech responds, okay, so test me too. Test me. So the Ribono Shel Olam says, okay, I'll test you, sure. Not only will I test you, I'll give you a head start. Kilu, I will do something for you that I did not do. I'll give you a hint. I'll give you some help. That which Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov did not receive. That I didn't tell them what the test was going to be in advance. Yet I am going to tell you now. That your test is going to be with Arayis. Miyad vayile Esau erev v'yokum David be'amishkavi v'gomer. And then it says that evening, David HaMelech got up from his bed. Why was he only getting up in the evening? Because Amr of Yehuda she'avach mishkavi shalayla mishkavi shel yom. So it says of Yehuda, because David HaMelech, when he was told that his test is going to be in the sugya of Arayis, he says, well, if I just kind of have bia during the day with my wife, so then that will satisfy my desire for bia. And then, memele, I won't have a taiva for anybody else, for any other women, and how can I possibly fail? However, he forgot the following concept, which is, that a person has a small part of his body, a small organ, a limb, a boy has this, that when you satisfy it, it only gets hungrier, and if you starve it, well then it is satiated. Meaning, David HaMelech made a mistake. If he wanted to pass the test, he should have refrained from bia so as not to have a taiva for bia, but instead he dafka figured, well, if I have bia with my wife, or I'm allowed to, well then that will satisfy my need. But he made the mistake, because no, satisfying the need actually only makes you want to have more of it, and then he ended up failing. Vayisalich al gag beis hamelech. He went to the roof of his palace. Vayar isha rechetzes me'al hagag, and he saw that a woman, Bathsheba, was bathing on her roof, and she was very exceedingly beautiful. Bathsheba was shampooing her hair under a cone. Also saw in Idmeleke, and the Satan came and appeared to King David like a bird. Posuk Bey Gera. David HaMelech then shot an arrow at this Yetzer Hara bird, this Satan bird. Poskol Chalsa, but he missed the bird, and it put a hole in the cone. Igla Igalyo Vichazyo, and then Bathsheba was revealed, and he saw her. Miyad Vayishlach David Vayidrush Leisha, and then immediately David sent for this woman, for Bathsheba. Vayomer Haloize Bathsheba. Vayishlach David Vayidrush Leisha. Vayomer Haloize Bathsheba, and he says, so he goes and he inquires about this woman. He says, this is Bathsheba Bas Eliam Eshes Uriah Chiti, the wife of Uriah Chiti. Vayishlach David Malachim Vayikochel, and then King David sent emissaries, and they scooped her up. Vatove Elov, and she came to David. Vayishkav Ima, and slept with her, and he slept with her. V'miskadeshes mitumasa, and she was not a nida. Vatashov el Beisa, and then she went home. Vanidichsiv, and this is what the pasuk says: Bochanta libi pokadto laila tzraftoni bal timtza zamosi bal yaver pi omer ikuz mama nofal befume demandesoni le. David HaMelech, after that incident, said, Dag nabbit, if only I would have had a muzzle in my mouth, velo omer ki amilsa, and I would never have asked to be tested after he failed the test. Cheva, remember I have this thing with my eyes that like sometimes like they just like kind of go out of focus, like I can't like read. Well, it literally started happening as I started recording. I'm like trying to see what the words say. It's not so easy. I have some coffee here. Coffee doesn't necessarily help, it just takes time. I assume that by the end of the daf, it'll be fine, but it's like, I'm trying to like figure out what the words say. So if I get some of the words wrong, that's why I can't really see them. Darash Rav my dichsiv, Rav darshan, what does the pasuk mean? Lamnatzech David, Ba'Hashem chasisi, eich temru lenafshi, nudi archem tzipor, Omar David fnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Rebbeinu shel olam. King David says before the Rebbeinu Shalom, Rebbeinu Shalom, Mechol li al oisei avon, can you please forgive me for that sin? That people shouldn't say that your mountain, King David, was able to be moved by a little bird. Darash Rav mai dichsiv l'cholavadcho chatosi v'ra beinecho asisi v'man titztoch b'dvarecho tizke b'shovtecho. It is known, revealed and known to you. David HaMelech says to the Rebbeinu Shalom, says, look, obviously if I wanted to, I could have defeated my Yetzer Hara, I could have suppressed my Yetzer Hara. But I figured that if I would have suppressed my Yetzer Hara, then that means that I would have won the bet, so to speak. Kilu, right? The Rebbeinu Shalom says, look, you wanted this test, I'm going to give it to you, but, you might be getting yourself into trouble. And, Kilu, if David would have passed the test, then he would have, like, bested the Rebbeinu Shalom, so to speak. So David HaMelech, he says, look, I could have succeeded in that, I could have passed the test, but then you would have looked bad, so I failed. Darash Rav my dichsiv, Rav darshan, what does the pasuk mean? Ki ani letzelo nochoin umachoivi negdi somid v'uya oisa bas sheva bas eliam leDavid misheshes yimei beishes, that Bathsheba was really fit for David from the time of creation. Of course they were going to get together, but they got together under the wrong, painful circumstances. That wasn't how it was supposed to work out. That again, that Bathsheba was fit for David, but it was too ripe of a time. It was too early, not the right time. Take a stick of coffee. Darash Rav darshan ma'dichsiv uvetzali somchu v'ne'esafu nesvu olai nechim v'lo yadaiti kar v'lo damu amar David l'fnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu Rebbeinu shel olam t'golav yadua l'fanecha shema yukarim b'sari l'hayu dam mishoseis. It is revealed before you that if they would tear open my flesh, there would be no blood. What happened was after this incident with Bathsheba and the word got out, David, you can imagine that King David's detractors were having a field day. And they were, putting him down at any opportunity that they had. And King David says before the Ribbono Shel Olam, it is known before you that if they were to tear open my flesh, there would be no more blood. All my blood has been drained from me out of the humiliation that I am subjected to. Not only that, that whenever they're learning Masechta Sanhedrin, the parak of Arba Misas Bezdin, they make a point of stopping their learning and saying to me, Duvid, Habal Eishes Ish, Misosei Bima. Hey, David, somebody who sleeps with an Eishes Ish, what's the punishment? So you know what I told him? Habal Eishes Ish, Misosu Bechenek. He says, yeah, okay, true. Habal Eishes Ish, Misosu Bechenek, V'yesh lo chelik lo'olam haba. But nonetheless, he has a portion in the world to come. However, on the other hand, somebody who embarrasses his fellow in public, ein lo chelik lo'olam haba, that person has no portion in the world to come. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav, afilu b'shas chol yoy shel David, even when King David was sick, kiyim shmoneh esrei onos, he had 18 wives, and he made sure to have beer with each one of them. Shenemar yagaiti ba'anchosi asab cholai lemitosi b'dimosi arsi amse. That even though I'm having a hard time at night in my bed, but I make sure to have beer with all my wives. So Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav, bikesh David la'aved avodah zarah, that when his son Avshalom, when Absalom rebelled, King David he assumed that he was going to be killed by Absalom, by his son Absalom. And so he figured, wow, that would be a big chilul Hashem. If David was killed by Absalom, people would say, wow, David was a big tzaddik. How could that be that he was killed by Absalom? So David said, you know what, I'm going to serve Avodah Zarah. And then the people will say, David was killed because he served Avodah Zarah, serves him right. And therefore, while, David would, look bad, it would look bad for David that he served Avodah Zarah, but at least there would not be a chilul Hashem, because people would say, he was killed because he worshipped Avodah Zarah. So, Bikesh David la'aved Avodah Zarah, that King David wanted to serve Avodah Zarah, so in order to prevent the chilul Hashem, when he figured he would be inevitably killed by Absalom. Shenemar, Vayidavid ba ad harosh asher yishtach v'sham le'elokim, that King David went to the Rosh, where he would prostrate himself before God. Ve'ein Rosh el avodah zarah. Now Rosh, however, is avodah zarah. Shenemar vehu tzalma reshe didahav tav, that the getchker of Nebuchadnezzar, its reshe, its head, was of good gold. V'hinei the krosei chushaya arki karu kutonto v'adom arosho comes chushi ha'arki Amrlo, and he says LeDavid, to David, Yomru melech shekamoischa yaved avodah zarah. And Chushi ha'arki says to David, he says, what the people are going to say, that a king of your status is going to do avodah zarah? Amar loy melech shekamosi yargenu benoi. And David says, yeah, but at the same time, how could it be that a king like me, his son, will kill him? That's also no good. Better that I should serve Avodah Zarah, and then people will say, how could it be that King David's son killed him? It's because he served Avodah Zarah. And they won't say that, well, where is God? How could it be that somebody like King David was killed by his son? Omar, my time of konsivas yifas toyar. Chushi ha'arki then says, how come you married Eishes Yifas Toyar? Because Absalom's mother was an Eishes Yifas Toyar. So Chushi ha'arki says to David, why did you do that? Why did you go there? Why did you marry Yifas Toyar? Omerle Yifas Toyar Rachmana Shaya. King David says, well, the Torah allows one to marry an Eishes Yifas Toyar. Omerle Loi Darashta Smuchin Desamachle. But Chushi ha'arki says, yeah, but there's also the fact that immediately after Eishes Yifas Toyar, the Torah talks about Ki yeh leish ben Sorah u'moreh kol hanoseh Yifas Toyar yesh lo ben Sorah u'moreh, that it's known that anybody who marries an Eishes Yifas Toyar, while that is permitted, they will have a son who is a Ben Soyer More, and you shouldn't have married basically Eishes Yifas Toyar. Now you're dealing with the consequences with Absalom. Okay. Darsh of Dostai Demin Beri. Dostai Demin Beri Darshan. Lema David Doime. What is King David similar to? L'soicher Kusi, to a Kuthian merchant. Basically, what the Kuthian merchants would do is they would sell you lots of small things, so you wouldn't realize, but you're actually spending a lot of money, right? They would say, here, take this little thing, it's just a few shekels. Oh, how about this? It's just a few shekels. And you would end up buying, 100 things for just a few shekels and spending hundreds of shekels. So Amar David Lefnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So similarly, King David says before HaKadosh Baruch Hu, King David wanted to be forgiven. So he said, hey, can you just forgive me for this little thing? What about for that little thing? Maybe this, and like this, instead of saying, can you forgive me for everything? You would ultimately get forgiven for all the things in smaller batches. Omar, in smaller segments. Omar David Lefnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Rebbeinu Shalom Shgios Miyavin. Who can understand? Can you forgive me for my mistakes? Yes, I forgive you. From the hidden things that I don't know about, sure, you're forgiven. What, even for the intentional things? Okay, fine. You're forgiven. Ayim shlubi as esom that that the rabbis shouldn't be talking about me in negative ways. Fine, forgiven. And then David HaMelech says, okay, that I should be cleaned from sin, meaning, how about we just leave out the whole parsha of Bathsheba? Let's just leave that out of the Navi, of Tanakh. To that, the Rabban Shalom says, no, this I cannot do. I cannot just delete that incident. Umayud shenataltu misorai oimid v'tzavach kamashonim ad shebo Yoshua v'safti loy, that Sarah, right, Avram's wife Sarah, and our mother Sarah, her name of course was initially Sarai, but then it was changed to Sarah, and the Yud of Sarai was like, hey, you can't just take me out of the Torah. So eventually, the Yud was returned when Hoshea ben Nun became Yehoshua. The Rabban Shalom says to David HaMelech, I can't just take a whole parsha in the Torah, and just delete it, never to be seen again. Right? Shenatati misoy v'omev v'tzavcha kam rishonim ad shebo Yoshua v'osafti lo shenemar vayikra Moshe lo Hoshea ben Nun Yehoshua kol haparsha kula lachas kamo v'chamo. Certainly, I cannot just delete an entire parsha in the Torah. David HaMelech says to Rebbeinu Shalom, can you forgive me on that entire incident, on that entire sin? Omar kvar osid Shlomo bin Chalomo b'chochmaso. Rebbeinu Shalom says to David, yeah, but your son Shlomo is going to say in his wisdom, Hayachte ish eish b'cheiko uv'godav le'tisrofeno. No, a person who holds a fire to his bosom, of course, his clothing are going to get burnt. If a person walks on coals, his feet are going to get burned. Also, somebody who sleeps with an Eshes Ish, like you did, will not be cleaned from what they did. Omar le kol ochi nitrod au gavra. So King David says to the Rebbeinu Shalom, says what? So I'm stuck. So Omar le kabel alecha yisurin. The Rebbeinu Shalom says, well, not necessarily, accept upon yourself afflictions, kibel olav. And David HaMelech, and King David accepted upon himself yisurin. Omar Rav Yehuda Omar Rab Shisha Chodoshim Nitztarei David, that for 6 months King David had saras, and the divine presence left him. Ufershu mimenu Sanhedrin, as did the Sanhedrin. They also left him. How do we know that King David had tzaras? As it says, Tichateni ba'ezov, ve'etar tichabsenu misheleg albin, that Tichateni me'ezov, right? Ezov is part of the purification process of a mitzorah, and he says, clean me, and from white, I assume that's also a reference of like mitzorah kasheleg, I will be cleaned from the tzaras. V'nistalke imenu shchina, and the divine presence left him. Dichsiv hashiva li, return to me. Sison yishecha v'ruch nediva tismecheni. Ufeshim imenu Sanhedrin, and Sanhedrin left him. Dichsiv yashuvu li yereyecha v'gomer, that those who fear you should return to me, that the Sanhedrin should return to me. Shish chodashim minolan. How do you know that it was for 6 months that he had tzaras? Dichsiv vayom mashamalach David Yisrael ayboim shana, that King David ruled over Israel for 40 years. Bechevin malach sheva shanim, 7 years in Hebron, V'Yushalayim malach shleshim v'shalosh shanim, 33 years in Jerusalem. Uchsiv bechevin malach al Yehuda sheva shanim v'shisha chodashim v'gomer. But another pasuk says that King David ruled in Hebron over Judah for 7.5 years. So on the one hand it says 7 years, on the other hand it says 7.5 years. Where did the half a year go in the first accounting? It's because it was excluded in the first accounting because it was for that during that period he was a mitzayra. Amar lefanav ribono shel olam choli al oisei oven machul lach. So King David says to Ribono shel olam, forgive me for that sin. The Ribono shel olam says, you are forgiven. Aseimi ois l'toiva v'yusone v'yevoshu ka'ato Hashem azatani v'nichamtani. Hashem, can you make me a sign so that people will see, and that my enemies will be embarrassed because they will see that I've been forgiven. And the Ribono shel olam says, look, in your lifetime I will not do this, but in the lifetime of your son Shlomo I will show the people that you've been forgiven. B'shasha bana Shlomo es beis hamikdash. When Shlomo built the beis hamikdash, b'kishlachnis Aaron v'es kodshei hakodshim, he wanted to bring the ark into the Kodesh HaKodashim. Davku shayim zebazeh, but the gates of the Kodesh HaKodashim clung to one another. They refused to open the Omer Esim V'Arba Rinanus V'Lonena. So Shlomo said 24 different ways of praise for God, as Rashi points out, Tefillah, Tchina, Rina, etc. V'Lonena, but it didn't work. Omar Sushayim Rosheichem, gates, open up your and open up. V'Yinosu Pischei Olam, V'Yovei Melech HaKuved, Mize Melech HaKuved Hashem Izus V'Gibor, Hashem Gibor Milchama V'Nemru Sushayim Rosheichem, Su Pischei Olam, V'Yovei Melech HaKuved V'Gomer V'Lonena. Did not work. Came in Omar, when Shlomo said, Hashem Elokim HaToshev Pnei Mishichecha, don't turn back the face of your anointed one. Remember the kindness of King David, of your servant David. Then he was answered by David, and at that point all of David's detractors became white, like the sides of a pot. V'yadu kol Yisrael shemachol HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and then it was clear to all of Israel that the Ribono shel olam had forgiven King David for that sin, and it was in his zchus that the Aron, the ark, was able to be brought into the Holy of Holies. Okay. Yeah, I still have the seeing thing going on, mostly in the right eye, but it's starting to, I think, lighten up, which is good. Hopefully by the end of the daf, we'll be able to see properly again. That would be nice. Gechazi dichsev, and what was the deal with Gechazi? We said that Gechazi doesn't go to Olam Haba. How come? Dichsev, as it says, Vayelech Elisha Damesek leIchazal, that Elisha went to Damascus. Where did he go? Omar Rabbi Yochanan Shalach Lachzor Gechazi Betruva, says Rabbi Yochanan that he went to be Machzir b'tshuva Gehazi v'lechazer, but Gehazi did not return. Elisha says, do tshuva Gehazi. Gehazi says, look, I can't. Gehazi says, I'm a lost cause. I learned from you. Somebody who sins and causes the people to sin, he can't do tshuva. My ovad, what did Gehazi do? One opinion is that he kind of put some kind of magnet above the getchke of Yeravim, making an illusion that the getchke, that the ox was floating in midair, and as if it had like some kind of powers, and that aided the people in following. That sort of encouraged the people that, wow, this is the real deal. Let's worship the getchke. V'ika da'amrei shem chokak b'fio v'sem machrezes v'omeres anoich v'loyeh l'cho. Another opinion is that Gehazi put some kind of divine name in the mouth of the getchke, and it was announced, and then the getchke was announcing the first two of the Aseres Adibris, and people are like, whoa, that's far out. This getchke must be real. Alternatively, it could be that Gehazi pushed away students from Elisha. He was very protective over Elisha and prevented students from coming to learn with Elisha. That they said to Elisha, wow, the place where we're sitting here is very tight, it's very packed. Implying that until now it was not packed because Gehazi would prevent people from coming to learn. A person, when giving rebuke, should always be pushing away with the left hand while at the same time bringing close with the right hand, never burning bridges. Not like Elisha. Elisha pushed away Gehazi with both hands and he burnt that bridge, and Elisha burnt that bridge, and Gehazi was lost forever. Gehazi dichsev vayomer Naaman, and the initial incident when Gehazi was sent away was because of the incident with Naaman. That Naaman was a military officer, I believe, in the army of Aram, or at least a high up official by the king of Aram, and he got saras, and then he essentially was healed by Elisha, and he wanted to give Elisha all sorts of gifts. Elisha refused them, but Gehazi was like, wait a second, I'll take them. So after Naaman left, he chased after Naaman to go get them, and Naaman says, Hoyel v'kach kikorayim, go, please take these 2 talents of silver, vayifras vayotzer kikrim kosev v'gomer. And Naaman said, please, Elisha, yes, to Gehazi, yes, please, take these things, right? Because what happened was Elisha refused to accept him. He sent Naaman on his way after Naaman was healed. And then Gehazi chases after Naaman. It says, wait, Elisha changed his mind. He actually wants all of this stuff. And of course, Gehazi just took them for himself. And Elisha says to Gehazi, Me'ayin Gehazi, right? After Gehazi chased after Naaman to get the loot, when Gehazi comes back, Elisha says, hey Gehazi, where were you? Vayomer, lo alach avducha navana, oh, nowhere. Vayomer Elav, and Elisha says, lo libi alach, kasher afach, ishmael merkavto lekrosecho, ho'eis lokachas, es hakesev lokachas, bigodin v'zeis. So what, Gehazi, do you think that my spirit was not there when Naaman turned towards you to give you all the stuff? Well, you think I don't know? Is now the time to take the silver and the garments. Is now the time for all these to take all these things. Wait, did Gehazi take all those 8 things that Elisha listed? It was just silver and garments, not all those 8 things. He shouldn't have taken anything, but at the end of the day, we can only blame him for what he took, not for what he didn't take. Amar Rabbi Yitzchak, says Rabbi Yitzchak, look, At the time that Naaman got saras, Elisha was learning the perek in Masechta Shabbos of Shmona Shrotzim. Naaman cites Vamelech Aram Hoy Mitzorah, and Naaman, the Sartsova, so the general of the king of Aram, became a leper. And there was a girl there who was kidnapped and taken hostage from the Yidden in Eretz Yisrael, and she says to Naaman, look, if you go to Elisha, he will heal you. He also, when he arrived at Elisha, you know what Elisha's suggestion was? Just dip in the Jordan River. Naaman says, really? Are you kidding me? Are you playing games with me? So, Naaman's people that were with him, they said, hey, Naaman, hold your horses. Before you get all upset, and do whatever you're going to do to Elisha, why don't you at least just try it? Jump in the Jordan, see if it works. So that's what he did. He said, fine. And he jumped in the Jordan, and he was healed. So then Naaman comes back to Elisha amazed, and he says, wow, Elisha, please take all of these valuables that I have. But Elisha refused to receive them. Gehazi, however, ifter mikame Elisha also shakol mai de shakol ve'afkid. Gehazi, however, figured, wait, I want him. So after Naaman left, Gehazi chased after Naaman, caught up to him and claimed that Elisha had changed his mind. And then Gehazi chapped all of the stuff. Ve'ifkid, he hid them away someplace. Also Chazi Elisha. But when Gehazi returned to Elisha, Elisha noticed that there was tzaras on Gehazi's head. And Elisha says to Gehazi, Nudnik, is this the time to receive the reward for Shmona Shrotzim? Right? So meaning those 8 items that Elisha mentioned that he alleged that Gehazi took were connected the Shmona Shrotzim. He says to Gehazi, is this the time to accept the reward for Shmona Shrotzim? V'tzaras Naaman tidbak b'cho v'zayrecho ad olam v'etzim milfonim b'tzorek hasholeg. And Elisha says that the leprosy of Naaman should go to you and to your offspring forever. And Gehazi left full of tzaras. That when the pasuk said that there were 4 lepers by the gates, Amar Yochanan Gehazi v'shlesh abanov, that is a reference to Gehazi and his 3 children. Tanya Amar B'Shimon ben Elazar Yetzer Tinoik v'Isha, that says B'Shimon ben Elazar, when it comes to your Yetzer Hara, when it comes to interactions with a baby or with a woman, te small doiche v'yavim karevis, the way to interact and to navigate difficult situations is to push away with the left hand while bringing close with the right. Tana Rabbanan, the rabbis taught Gimel, Chaloyim Chole Elisha. Elisha got sick with 3 diseases. Echad she geredubim betinokis. One was because of inciting the bears against the kids. And one for pushing away Gehazi with his 2 hands, and then the third sickness was the one that he succumbed to, that he got sick with the disease that he succumbed to. Until Abraham, there was no concept of getting old. But it created a mess, because everybody would see Abraham and say, look, it's my friend Isaac. And anybody would see Isaac would say, it's Abraham. So Avraham prayed that there should be a concept of aging, so you can know how old a person is. And Avraham is getting old, coming in his days. Ad Yankiv lo ava chulsha. Until Yaakov Avinu, you wouldn't sort of like get weaker as you aged, you would just be strong your whole life, and then you would just plop. Yankif Avinu prayed that you should get weak before he died, so that people know, okay, things are winding down in this person's life, and you can, say goodbye and prepare. They said to Joseph, behold, your father is sick. And until Elisha, there was no concept of a person who got sick, recuperating. Elisha prayed and he was healed. That Elisha died the disease from which he died from, but there were others that he prayed for and was healed from. Peace out.